The man who once made multitudes roar his name now walks unseen among them. Michigan Avenue is bustling. People rush by, glued to their phones, lost in their own worlds. No one glances at the tall man in a mask and a cap pulled low over his eyes. No one recognizes the face that graced thousands of posters, commercials, and magazine covers. Michael Jordan, a living basketball legend, removes the last vestige of his fame, the gold watch he always wore on his wrist. His fingers tremble slightly as he tucks it into the pocket of the worn-out jacket he bought at a department store. "Today, I just want to be another face in the crowd," he whispers to himself, stowing the relic in the pocket of the threadbare jacket he picked up at some anonymous department store. He walks alone. No bodyguards, no limousine, free from the suffocating burden of fame that had transformed his life into a gilded cage. His footsteps echo on the cold concrete. A peculiar sensation washes over him. Freedom and vulnerability intertwined. He observes the people around him. A white mother pulls her child closer as he approaches. A white couple automatically crosses the street. The man who once had the entire world rooting for him is now just another black man on an American avenue. And this reality cuts like a sharp blade. His pace slows as he spots the diner on the corner. A humble establishment with a faded sign and fogged-up windows. The kind of place where ordinary people grab breakfast before work. Jordan pauses in front of the glass door. Through the reflection, he sees his own masked face. For a moment, he hesitates. There's still time to retreat to his mansion, to the world where he is king. But no. He pushes the door open and steps inside. The bell above the entrance chimes softly, announcing the arrival of another customer. The aroma of bacon and coffee wafts into his nostrils. Low conversations fill the air. It's a world utterly different from his universe of private jets and five-star restaurants. The hostess, a middle-aged white woman, looks up from the magazine she was perusing. Her gaze sweeps over Jordan from head to toe. The worn jacket, the pulled-down cap, the demeanor of someone out of place. And then she dismisses him entirely. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Jordan remains standing at the diner's entrance, observing a cruel dance unfold before his eyes. Pair after pair, all of them Caucasian, are greeted with effusive smiles and ushered to their tables with impeccable courtesy. "Good morning. Table for two? Right this way, please." The hostess practically warbles to each new arrival. But for Jordan, there is only silence, as if he were invisible. As though his presence warranted not even a flicker of recognition. He clears his throat unobtrusively. Nothing. He tries to position himself closer to the reception counter. The woman persists in feigning his non-existence. Tension coils in Jordan's chest like a serpent. He knows this game. He grew up playing this game. But it had been so long he had forgotten the searing burn of humiliation. A young white couple enters right behind him. No sooner do they cross the threshold than they are greeted like royalty. "Oh, how lovely to see you. Your table is already prepared." Jordan clenches his fists inside his pockets. He takes a deep breath. He reins in the burgeoning rage threatening to erupt. He came here to understand, not to create a spectacle. Finally, the hostess can no longer feign ignorance of him. She lifts her gaze, her expression blending irritation and outright disdain. "Sir, are you certain you've entered the correct establishment?" The words emerge like finely honed daggers. Jordan feels each syllable lacerate his dignity. He understands the subtext. He knows the unspoken translation. This establishment is not meant for your kind. Before he can respond, a female voice slices through the tension-laden air. "I'll attend to him." Jordan turns to see Tasha Bell approaching, a black woman in her mid-30s, her coiled hair neatly arranged in a practical bun, her uniform pristine. Yet her eyes bore the weight of untold struggles. She walks towards Jordan with resolute strides, disregarding the hostess's daggered glare. "Come with me, sir. I have just the table for you." Tasha guides Jordan through the bustling restaurant, past tables occupied by white families who glance up with thinly veiled curiosity. Some whisper amongst themselves. Others merely observe with that familiar gaze Jordan knows all too well. The look that categorizes, judges, and condemns without uttering a single word. This way, Tasha says, indicating a table at the very rear of the establishment, adjacent to the kitchen and far removed from the street-facing windows. Jordan notes the strategic placement, hidden, unseen, as if his mere presence might somehow sully the experience of the true clientele. He settles into the chair deliberately, observing Tasha as she arranges the place settings on the table. There's something about his movements, a precision born of experience, of the necessity to execute everything flawlessly to preempt issues. "I don't often see you around here," she comments, pouring water into his glass. Her voice carries a curious blend of caution and genuine kindness. "Do you live nearby?" Jordan scrutinizes her face. In those brown eyes, he discerns a story that echoes his own. The narrative of someone who has learned to navigate a world not designed for people like them. "I've lived in Chicago for a long time," he replies, keeping his voice low. "I've just never had the occasion to come here." Tasha smiles, a small but sincere smile. There's something about his manner of speaking, his erect posture, his steady gaze that piques her curiosity. It's uncommon to see black men in this establishment, and when they do appear, they are typically delivery personnel or maintenance staff. "Well, the coffee here is good," she says, filling the conversational void. "The bacon, too. Nothing overly sophisticated, but—" "Tasha!" The voice slices through the air like a whip. Both turn to see Mr. Dunley, the manager, striding toward the table, his face flushed with rage. His cheap suit appears even tighter when he's irritated, and now he is incandescent with fury. He seizes Tasha's arm with unnecessary force, yanking her away from the table. "You know the clientele here is selective," he hisses through clenched teeth, yet loud enough for Jordan to catch every venomous word. "Be mindful of whom you attend to." The words reverberate through the restaurant like a pronouncement. Jordan feels his blood boil in his veins. The other patrons feign deafness, but it's obvious everyone has grasped the message. Tasha tries to wrench herself free from Dunley's grip, her dignity being publicly shredded. "He just wants coffee," she protests in a low voice. "And he can have it," Dunley retorts with a cruel smirk. "At the diner around the corner. This establishment has standards." Jordan hears everything. Every word is like salt in an open wound. He rises slowly, his imposing height causing some patrons to turn. For a moment, the entire restaurant falls silent. The silence in the restaurant is deafening. Jordan remains standing beside the table, his 6'6" frame casting a shadow that seems to engulf Mr. Dunley. But the manager, fueled by arrogance and the certainty of his superiority, does not relent. "You heard what I said," Dunley continues, still clutching Tasha's arm as if she were his property. "We have a reputation to uphold here." Tasha attempts to pull away again, her face a meld of shame and indignation. She has worked here for 3 years, always maintaining impeccable professionalism, invariably treating every customer with respect. Yet now she finds herself being humiliated for doing precisely that, affording a fellow human being basic dignity. Jordan observes the scene unfolding. He sees the pain in Tasha's eyes. He feels the electric tension crackling in the air. The other patrons feign eating, yet every ear is attuned to the confrontation. He could resolve everything instantly. He could shed his disguise, reveal his true identity, and watch Dunley's world crumble in mere seconds. But that wouldn't be authentic. It would merely be the leverage of celebrity, not the justice he endeavors to comprehend. "It's quite all right," Jordan states calmly, placing a few dollars on the table. "I was just on my way out anyway." Dunley releases Tasha and turns to Jordan with a triumphant, cruel smirk. "An excellent decision. I'm sure you'll find a place more suited to your disposition." The words sting like slaps. Jordan feels every patron in the restaurant observing his public humiliation. A middle-aged white woman whispers something to her husband, and they chuckle softly. Jordan walks toward the exit, each step echoing in the charged silence. He passes the hostess, who now grins openly, clearly pleased with the outcome. He walks past tables where entire families observe him as if he were an endangered species. Tasha follows him with her gaze, a tightening sensation in her chest. There is dignity in his movement, in his erect posture even amidst the humiliation. It is uncommon to witness someone maintain such composure in such a situation. Jordan pushes the door open and steps onto the cold sidewalk. Chicago's frigid air strikes him like a physical blow, yet it pales in comparison to the chill he feels within. On the sidewalk, he pauses for a moment. A black mother with a small child passes him. Upon seeing him, she automatically pulls her child closer and quickens her pace, as if Jordan represented some form of threat. Not even his own community recognizes him. To everyone, he is merely another potentially dangerous black man. Jordan takes a deep breath and continues walking. The electronics store on the next block catches his eye. The electronic chime of the store rings as Jordan pushes open the glass door. The contrast with the restaurant is immediate. Here, soft pop music plays, modern LED lights illuminate, and shelves are meticulously organized with the latest technological gadgets. Behind the counter, a 19-year-old black man raises his gaze from a sports magazine. Lamar Carter possesses that effortless, youthful smile, short dreadlocks, and a contagious energy that permeates the space. "Yo, man," Lamar greets Jordan with unfeigned ease. "Looking for anything specific today?" The disparity in treatment is striking. Here, Jordan is welcomed like any ordinary patron. There are no immediate preconceptions, no distrustful gazes. Simply a young black man extending fundamental respect to another black man. "Just browsing," Jordan replies, visibly easing up slightly. "No worries, man. If you need anything, just say the word." Lamar reverts to his magazine, yet keeps talking. "Man, have you seen that new documentary that came out about Michael Jordan? The Last Dance 2 Legacy?" Jordan nearly chokes. He ceases pretending to examine the headphones on the shelf. "No, I haven't seen it yet." "Dude, you absolutely must see it." Lamar becomes animated, fully discarding the magazine. That guy changed the game. Nobody plays like him anymore. Like when he stepped onto the court, you just knew you were going to witness something magical, you know? Jordan feels an odd mix of pride and wistfulness. It's surreal to hear someone speak of him as if he were a distant historical figure. "You think he was that exceptional?" Jordan asks, testing the waters. "Dude!" Lamar slaps his hand on the counter. "Are you kidding me? The guy was literally a god. 6 championships, 5 MVPs, plays that defied physics." Lamar halts abruptly and dashes to a wall-mounted TV. He snatches the remote control and swiftly powers it on. "Check this out." Lamar points at the screen, where a slow-motion clip shows Jordan at the zenith of his career, soaring through the air in an impossible play against the Utah Jazz. Jordan watches his younger self on the screen. The man in flight seems to inhabit a different universe, an alternate reality. In the image, he is flawless, invincible, almost supernatural. "He was like a god," Lamar whispers with genuine reverence, completely mesmerized by the scene. On screen, the 33-year-old Jordan sinks a three-pointer in the final second, clinching Game 6 of the 1998 Finals. The crowd erupts. Commentators roar, history being made in real time. "Man, I'd give anything to have witnessed that live," Lamar continues, his eyes glued to the TV. "My father always says it was impossible to describe the energy that man commanded. I mean, when he stepped onto the court, you just knew something special was about to unfold." Jordan felt a pang in his chest. This adoration, this reverence, this admiration, all directed at a version of himself that seemed to have existed a millennium ago. Now masked in an electronics store, he was just another customer browsing smartphones. "Do you think he's still alive?" Jordan asked, a strange question that slipped out before he could stop himself. "Of course, man. He's like in his 60s. But I don't know, he sort of faded from the limelight after he stopped playing, didn't he?" Lamar switched off the TV and turned his attention to Jordan. Probably living in some giant mansion somewhere, counting his millions. The irony was almost excruciating. Jordan was right there, 2 meters away, and Lamar was completely oblivious. "Do you think he remembers what it was like to be treated differently? Before the fame?" Lamar paused and looked at Jordan more closely for the first time. "That's a profound question, brother." He leaned against the counter. "Man, I'd imagine so. Nobody forgets where they came from, right? Especially being black in this country. Fame might protect you, but it doesn't erase the memory." At that moment, a piercing sound cut through the air. "Beep! Beep!" Beep! The store's security system triggered. Red lights flashed on the ceiling. Automatically, all eyes turned to Jordan. The alarm continued to echo through the store like an accusatory shriek. Jordan stood paralyzed in the middle of the aisle, his mind processing what was happening. The sound was deafening, but the ensuing silence was even worse. What the hell? Lamar rushed to the control panel behind the counter, frantically typing in codes to disable the alarm. But it was too late. The store door burst open violently, and a private security guard strode in. A burly white man, his uniform appearing too tight for his robust frame. "Where is he?" he yelled, his eyes immediately locking onto Jordan like a guided missile. "My apologies, it just went off, but there's nobody," Lamar tried to explain. "You!" The security guard pointed at Jordan as if he had just found the country's most wanted criminal. "Don't move!" Jordan slowly raised his hands, a movement he had learned to make since childhood. The survival protocol every Black American man knew by heart. "I didn't do anything," he said calmly. "That's what they all say," the security guard growled, approaching with heavy footsteps. "Turn out your pockets, now!" "Hey, hey, hey!" Lamar leaps over the counter. "Dude, this man didn't do anything. He was just looking at some headphones." But the security guard is already fueled by adrenaline and prejudice. He grabs Jordan by the arm and begins frisking him with unnecessary brutality. The man's thick hands rummage through Jordan's pockets. They find his wallet, his keys, and then, "Well, look what we have here." The security guard pulls the gold watch from Jordan's inner jacket pocket, holding it up like a trophy. "Gold Rolex. I bet you have a receipt, right?" Sarcasm drips from every word. Jordan looks at his own watch, the piece he had carried for 30 years, worth more than that man's annual salary, being brandished as evidence of a crime he never committed. "That watch is mine," Jordan says, his voice remaining calm even as a tempest raged within him. "Of course it is," the security guard laughs, "and I'm the president of America." Other customers begin to gather at the store's entrance. Phones are raised. People start filming. Jordan's humiliation is being documented for posterity. "He didn't do anything," Lamar shouts, trying to interpose himself between Jordan and the security guard. "You're making a colossal error." Time seems to decelerate as the store's sirens cut through the silence like sharp knives. Jordan feels every beat of his heart echoing in his ears, every breath weighing like lead in his chest. The gold watch he had kept in his pocket, a symbol of decades of accomplishments, now becomes evidence of a crime he never committed. The air in the electronics store grows thick, charged with a dangerous electricity that has nothing to do with the devices on the shelves. Each passing second feels like an eternity. Jordan feels sweat trickling down his forehead beneath his cap, his mask clinging to his face like a burning second skin. "Everybody back!" The store's lead security officer emerges like a storm, shoving people aside with the authority of someone who had finally found their chance to feel important. His eyes had already judged, condemned, and executed Jordan before a single word was exchanged. "You, stop right there!" The man is corpulent, his face flushed, like someone who had spent his entire life looking for someone to blame for his own frustrations. His uniform is too tight, buttons straining against his prominent belly. His name tag reads, Chuck Morrison Security, but to Jordan he represents something far greater and more sinister. The store instantly devolves into a theater of horrors. Customers recoil as if Jordan carried a virulent contagion. A mother violently yanks her young daughter back, muttering something into the child's ear. Her husband clutches her protectively, as if Jordan were a savage beast poised to strike. Children cower behind their parents' legs, curious eyes peeking out from between splayed fingers. Women press their handbags tightly against their chests with superfluous vehemence. Men fold their arms and assume guarded stances. All eyes pivot towards the black man in the baseball cap and mask who had the temerity to occupy the same space as them. "Sir, is there a problem?" Jordan maintains a placid tone, his hands conspicuously displayed, every gesture meticulously calculated to preclude fatal misinterpretations. Decades of lived experience had instilled in him the knowledge that a single misconstrued gesture could delineate the fragile boundary between life and death. The problem is, you trying to steal from our store. The security guard approaches, chest puffed out like a territorial peacock, fingers already hovering near the baton clipped to his belt. The sensor tripped when you walked through the door. We know how this story goes. Jordan feels a familiar pang in his stomach. How many times had he heard those very words? How many times had he been followed, scrutinized, suspected without cause? Even at the zenith of his fame, even when his face graced billboards across the nation, there were still moments like this. This must be a misunderstanding, Jordan replies, keeping his hands visible to everyone. I haven't taken anything that isn't mine. Misunderstanding? The security guard scoffs, a harsh, unpleasant sound. The misunderstanding is you thinking you'd walk out of here with stolen merchandise. Lamar appears like a guardian angel, rushing between the electronics aisles, tripping over his own feet in his haste. His eyes are wide with disbelief and horror. The kid recognizes injustice when he sees it. He grew up witnessing it on every corner of his neighborhood. Hold on! Lamar positions himself between Jordan and the security guard, his 19 years appearing even younger under the store's fluorescent lights. This man didn't steal anything. I was assisting him the entire time. We talked about basketball. Get out of the way, kid, the security guard snarls, shoving Lamar aside as if he were an insignificant obstacle, a leaf in the wind. You don't need to protect a thief just because he shares your complexion. The words hit Jordan like punches to the gut. He knew this script by heart, inside and out. He'd memorized these lines at 8 years old, when he was first followed in a Brooklyn candy store. At 15, when he was stopped by the police for fitting the description of a suspect. At 22, when even as a rising star, he was still viewed as a threat in elevators of upscale hotels. The script never changed. Only the actors were different. The crowd swells like a malignant tumor. People materialize from nowhere, emerging from the store's aisles like ants drawn to sugar. Smartphones raised like modern weapons, ravenous for viral content. Camera flashes explode like lightning bolts in a violent storm. Curious faces press against the store's display windows, transforming the situation into a circus act. Did someone call the police? A voice in the crowd asks. I already did, another replies. They said they're on their way. The police have already been summoned, a woman in the crowd proclaimed, her voice brimming with a macabre satisfaction, as if announcing the triumphant score of a match where her team held the decisive lead. The phone still pressed to her ear. A smirk graced her lips, the kind that signifies a good deed accomplished. Jordan felt the oppressive walls encroaching upon him. The atmosphere turned thick, suffocating, charged with palpable hostility and tense anticipation. Dozens of eyes devoured him, akin to a specimen under scrutiny in a zoological exhibit. Beads of sweat slicked his forehead beneath the brim of his cap. The mask clung to his face, a searing, suffocating second skin. A primal scream clawed at his throat. He yearned to tear off the mask and the cap. He longed to transmute their judgmental stares into immediate shame and fervent adoration. He yearned to witness Chuck Morrison's expression when the man realized he had just accused a living basketball legend of shoplifting. But he couldn't. Not yet. Because that would unequivocally validate the very point he was striving to underscore. That skin color remains the primary determinant of judgment. That fame and fortune are merely ephemeral facades masking a deeper, more somber truth. Turn out your pockets. The security guard lunged forward, shoving Jordan against the electronic display wall with gratuitous force. Boxes of headphones and phone cases cascaded to the floor with a metallic clatter. Right now! You are not authorized to frisk me, Jordan retorted, each word articulated with surgical precision, his voice low yet resolute. Not without probable cause. Probable cause? The security guard scoffed, spewing the words as if they were venom on his tongue. Your mere presence here constitutes sufficient probable cause, friend. People like you invariably stir up trouble. The insult hung heavy in the air, a toxic pall. Several individuals in the crowd evinced discomfort, yet no one uttered a word. No one intervened. They were mere spectators in a Roman arena, morbidly awaiting the spilling of blood. Lamar attempted to intercede once more, his youthful face contorted with righteous indignation. His hands trembled with a potent mix of rage and impotence. This is preposterous. He did absolutely nothing. I witnessed the entire exchange. He was merely browsing headphones. Nobody solicited your opinion, punk, the security guard barked. Get back to work instead of championing a criminal. Listen here, man, Lamar tried once more, his voice imbued with a desperate indignation that reverberated through the store's confines. I've worked here for 2 years. I'm acquainted with every individual who pilfers from this establishment. I'm familiar with their modus operandi, their movements, their furtive glances. This man is no thief. The security guard abruptly halted. His eyes narrowed to a slit of pure hatred. A cruel smile curls onto his lips, revealing teeth yellowed by cigarettes. And how do you know? The security guard snarls, each word oozing concentrated venom. Because he's of your kind? The phrase slices through the air like a razor dipped in salt. The ensuing silence is deafening, heavy as molten lead. Several people in the crowd emit muffled sounds of disapproval, whispers of shock. Some shake their heads in negation, yet no one intervenes. No one moves to defend Jordan or Lamar. They merely record amassing gruesome content for their social media, like vultures circling fresh carrion. Oh no, what? Nobody solicited your opinion, punk, the security guard barked. Get back to work instead of championing a criminal. Listen here, man. Lamar tried once more, his voice imbued with a desperate indignation that reverberated through the store's confines. I've worked here for 2 years. I'm acquainted with every individual who pilfers from this establishment. I'm familiar with their modus operandi, their movements, their furtive glances. This man is no thief. The security guard abruptly halted. His eyes narrow to a slit of pure hatred. A cruel smile curls onto his lips, revealing teeth yellowed by cigarettes. And how do you know? The security guard snarls, each word oozing concentrated venom. Because he's of your kind? The phrase slices through the air like a razor dipped in salt. The ensuing silence is deafening, heavy as molten lead. Several people in the crowd emit muffled sounds of disapproval, whispers of shock. Some shake their heads in negation, yet no one intervenes. No one moves to defend Jordan or Lamar. They merely record, amassing gruesome content for their social media, like vultures circling fresh carrion. Jordan feels something shatter within his chest. Not his heart. That organ has been splintered so often over the years, it has developed thick calluses. It's something deeper, more fundamental. The last vestige of faith he harbored in people's humanity, in the innate goodness he believed resided in everyone. Lamar recoils as if struck across the face. His hands tremble violently. Tears well up in the corners of his young eyes. Tears of humiliation and injustice. I was just trying to, he stammers, his voice cracking. Trying what? The security guard looms over the boy like a predator over its prey. Trying to fabricate a racial incident where none exists? To go easy on a criminal? You should be ashamed to defend people like that. Jordan closes his eyes for a moment. The din of the crowd completely fades. The camera flashes vanish, as if someone had switched off the world. For one precious second, he is back at 8 years old, running through the narrow streets of Brooklyn, worn sneakers slapping against the hot asphalt. The wind on his face, the sensation of flying without needing a court or a hoop. Pure, innocent, free. He remembers the lanky and awkward teenager who was cut from the school team. The humiliation burning like acid in his stomach. The coach saying he wasn't tall enough, wasn't talented enough, transforming pain into fuel, rejection into unyielding determination. He remembers the young man who conquered the world with raw talent and brutal exertion. Sleepless nights, training until his hands bled. Sweat from every pore. Tears of exhaustion no one witnessed. Transforming the impossible into the inevitable. Dreams into reality. And now he is here. At 63 years old, leaning against a cold electronics store wall, being treated like a common criminal by a man who probably couldn't even dribble a basketball. The circle had come full circle, cruelly and ironically. The noise returned like a devastating tsunami. Voices melded into a discordant symphony of prejudice and morbid curiosity. Where are the police? Did anyone get that on video when he took something? It's always the same, isn't it? See? That's why I don't come to these places anymore. They ought to search everyone upon entry. I bet he's got more stashed away. Jordan slowly opened his eyes and met Lamar's gaze. The boy was utterly devastated, humiliated for trying to do the right thing. Jordan saw reflections of himself in those young eyes, the same simmering indignation, the same sense of powerlessness before a system that had already determined his fate before he even opened his mouth. He also saw something more, determination, the same fire that had burned within his own breast decades ago. "Do you have any identification, sir?" A new voice sliced through the tension like a sharp blade through delicate silk. Jordan turned slowly and saw two police officers entering the store with firm, decisive steps. The crowd automatically parted, creating a reverent corridor for the blue uniforms. One of the officers was black, younger, likely in his 30s, with a cautious gaze that danced nervously between Jordan and the chaotic situation around them. The other was white, a veteran with graying temples, bearing that expression Jordan knew intimately, one that had already judged, condemned, and decided the sentence before hearing a single word of the story. "Of course I do," Jordan replied, his voice maintaining the preternatural calm he had developed over decades of dealing with unimaginable pressure, the same serenity he had maintained during the decisive moments of the most crucial games. The black officer approached with measured, careful steps, while his veteran partner remained strategically positioned near the door, hand resting lightly on his holster, blue eyes scanning the crowd as if anticipating an ambush at any moment. "May I see your identification, sir?" the younger officer asked, his voice professional yet respectful. Jordan slowly reached for his wallet, every movement deliberately visible and predictable. He had learned this deadly dance long ago, hands always in plain sight, movements slow and telegraphed, nothing that could be construed as a fatal threat. He removes his aged leather wallet, a gift from his mother when he signed his first professional contract over 40 years ago, and carefully hands it to the officer. The officer opens the wallet with trained professionalism. His eyes methodically shift from the official document to Jordan's masked face, back to the document, to the face again, to the document a third time. Then, as if he had witnessed a ghost materialize before him, his eyes widen completely. The document trembles imperceptibly in his hands. "That name. Are you the—" The question hangs suspended in the air like wildfire smoke, laden with explosive possibilities. The crowd instinctively senses that something monumental is about to unfold. Smartphones draw closer, lenses ravenous for drama, flashes intensify into a tempest of light. The security guard furrows his brow, bewildered by the sudden and dramatic shift in the atmosphere. Jordan looks at the young officer, then at Lamar, who is still trembling with humiliation and injustice, at the dozens of faces in the crowd, avid for blood and scandal. Slowly, as one about to divulge the universe's most closely guarded secret, Jordan raises his hands to his face. He removes the mask with theatrical deliberation. He takes off his cap in a fluid motion, and the entire world ceases to spin. And there, beneath the harsh fluorescent lights of an ordinary electronics store in Chicago, Michael Jordan reveals his face to a completely stunned crowd. The face that adorned millions of posters, that appeared in iconic commercials, that was seen by billions of people around the world. That represents excellence, determination, and greatness. The face of a living legend. The ensuing silence is so profound it seems to siphon the oxygen from the environment. Then, as if an ancient spell had been broken, reality explodes back with devastating force. "My God," someone whispers, their voice cracking with pure emotion. "It's him," another voice confirms, incredulous, as if witnessing a miracle materialize. "It's really him," a third person repeats, like a mantra of disbelief. Lamar drops the remote control he was unconsciously holding. The sound of plastic hitting the linoleum floor echoes like a cannon shot in the surreal quietude, reverberating through the walls as a signal that the world has just changed forever. His young eyes widened until they seemed to engulf half his face. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish out of water. Michael? Jordan? He stammered, his jelly legs threatening to give out beneath his own weight. Michael Jordan? The last word erupted like a war cry, reverberating throughout the entire store and likely the whole mall. Tears began to stream down his young face. Tears of awe, of disbelief, of shame for what he had witnessed. The security guard who, moments earlier, had held Jordan like a common criminal, now recoiled as if he had just touched a live wire. His face, flushed crimson with anger and authority, instantly transformed into a cadaverous white of sheer terror. His eyes darted frantically between Jordan and the gold watch he still clutched, as if the jewel had morphed into a venomous serpent. I didn't know, he stammered, each word a struggle against the paralysis gripping his throat. Mr. Jordan, I would never. Of course you didn't know, Jordan said calmly, his voice cutting through the chaos like a razor's edge. Every word was uttered with a crystal-clear clarity that instantly hushed all murmurs. To you, I was just another black man who must be a thief. The phrase hung in the air like a death knell. Chuck Morrison, the security guard, felt the ground give way beneath him. 40 years of career, of dubious authority, of petty abuses of power. It all collapsed like a house of cards. The phones continued recording, but now with a different urgency. They were no longer documenting the humiliation of an unknown person. They were capturing the moment when one of American sport's greatest living legends exposed the insidious, everyday racism that permeates society like a silent cancer. A woman in the crowd began to weep openly. A middle-aged black man slowly shook his head, as if seeing his own life experience mirrored in that moment. A white teenager clapped her hands over her mouth, her eyes welling up with tears of shame and comprehension. Mr. Jordan? The white police officer approached nervously, each step heavy as lead. His hands trembled visibly. There has clearly been a terrible misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Jordan cut him off, his voice gaining power and authority, reverberating through the store like thunder. I was accused of theft for being in a store. I was treated as a criminal for merely existing in a public space. I was publicly humiliated before scores of people simply due to the hue of my skin. He points to his own face, the simple gesture laden with decades of experience, pain, and struggle. This is no misunderstanding, he continues, his voice growing more powerful with each word. This is racism, pure and simple. This is what happens daily to millions who lack the fortune of fame. A young man in the crowd, hands trembling with adrenaline, is already uploading the video to TikTok with the caption, Michael Jordan exposes live racism, another on Instagram stories, yet another on Twitter with hashtags that will become global trending topics within minutes. In a matter of seconds, the image of Michael Jordan being frisked by a racist security guard will begin its viral journey through the digital world, reaching millions of screens, awakening consciences, sparking debates, and shifting perspectives. Lamar draws near cautiously, as if treading on glass. Tears stream freely down his young face. Mr. Jordan, he whispers, his voice cracking, I am so sorry. I am so sorry for what you endured. I am so sorry I couldn't protect you better. Jordan looks at the boy with unfeigned tenderness. He sees in him all the young black men who confront the same daily struggle, without the shields of fame or fortune. You did what you could, son, Jordan replies, placing a gentle hand on Lamar's shoulder. You had the courage to speak up when countless others chose silence. That means more than you can imagine. The black officer approaches, removing his cap in a gesture of profound respect. Mr. Jordan, on behalf of the Chicago Police Department, I apologize for what transpired here today. This does not represent our values. It doesn't represent them? Jordan challenges him, not with anger, but with a profound sorrow that cuts deeper than any shout. How many anonymous Michael Jordans endure this daily? How many lack cameras recording? How many lack a famous identity to salvage them? The question reverberates through the store like a moral challenge. People avert their gaze, incapable of meeting Jordan's gaze. Others shake their heads, finally comprehending the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Chuck Morrison, the security guard, still clutches the gold watch as if it were his own death warrant. His hands tremble so violently that the timepiece nearly slips from his grasp. Mr. Jordan, I My career, my family, he stammered, realizing his life had just irrevocably changed. Your career? Jordan challenged him, his voice low but razor sharp. What about the dignity of the people you humiliated and the future of young individuals like Lamar, whom you disrespected? The store manager rushed over, sweating profusely, his face flushed with panic. Clearly, someone had apprised him of the unfolding situation. Mr. Jordan, he cried, pushing people aside to reach them. Please, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. We hold the utmost respect. Respect? Jordan interjected, his voice imbued with an authority that brought the man to an immediate halt. Where was that respect 15 minutes ago? The manager glanced around, noting the dozens of cameras recording, realizing his store was being nationally exposed as a blatant symbol of racial discrimination. We will take immediate measures, he stammered. Measures, Jordan repeated, testing the word on his tongue. Do you know the only measure that truly matters? Education, awareness, a genuine paradigm shift. He turned to the crowd, his voice rising to reach every individual present. Today you witnessed what transpires when one judges someone by the color of their skin. Today you were silent accomplices to an injustice. The question is, what will you do with this experience? A middle-aged black woman, who had been among the onlookers, approached with tears in her eyes. Mr. Jordan, thank you for showing the world what we confront every single day. Thank you for giving voice to our suffering. Jordan took her hand gently. We no longer need to be invisible, he stated, his voice resonating through every corner of the store. We no longer need to accept this in silence. The veteran officer approached again, visibly discomfited. Mr. Jordan, we need to formalize a report regarding this incident. There will be no report, Jordan replied firmly. There will be no lawsuits, but there will be consequences. There will be change. He looked directly into the still recording cameras. This day was not about Michael Jordan being humiliated. Rather, it was about all black men and women who endure such indignities without a voice. It was about exposing a truth many choose to disregard. Lamar approaches once more, his eyes still gleaming with a mix of awe and unshed tears. Mr. Jordan, you are my hero. You always have been. But today you became the hero for everyone who has ever been judged by the color of their skin. Jordan offers a faint smile for the first time since stepping into the store. And you, Lamar, are the hero for every young person who possesses the courage to speak truth to injustice. Never forget that. The cameras continue to roll as Jordan slowly makes his way towards the store's exit. Every step a profound statement. Every movement a profound lesson. At the threshold, he turns one final time. Remember this day, he intones, his voice resonant with the gravitas of centuries of struggle, and leverage it to forge a more equitable world. With that, Michael Jordan exits the store, leaving in his wake a world irrevocably altered. The videos disseminate across the internet like wildfire through parched timber. Michael Jordan, systemic racism, Jordan exposed. The hashtags proliferate exponentially, each bearing fragments of the legend's public humiliation. In her modest yet cozy South Side apartment, Tasha Bell is preparing dinner for her 7-year-old daughter when her phone vibrates. A notification from Twitter, then another from Instagram, and yet another from Facebook. She picks up her phone absently, expecting to encounter yet another meme or a feline video. Instead, she sees a shaky clip depicting a man being searched in an electronics store. The man then removes a mask. Tasha drops the spoon she was holding, clattering to the floor. It can't be, she whispers, her voice barely audible. It's him. The very man she had served at the restaurant that morning. The man Mr. Dunley had publicly humiliated. The man she had witnessed depart with his dignity, unblemished even in the face of such degradation. Michael Jordan. The legend, Michael Jordan. She watches the video 3 consecutive times, her heart quickening with each viewing. Every detail returns with crystalline clarity, his upright posture, his composed demeanor, the profound narratives held within his eyes that she had been unable to decipher at the time. Mom, what's wrong? Her daughter Keisha queries from the kitchen doorway. Nothing, honey. Tasha lies, her fingers trembling visibly as she scrolls through the burgeoning comments. Go finish your homework. The comments are a veritable tsunami of outrage. How dare they treat Michael Jordan like that? This is what happens to any black man in this country, famous or not. If they did this to MJ, imagine what they do to us. Racism doesn't discriminate based on bank accounts. Tasha sits in her kitchen chair, still grappling with the sheer magnitude of what she had witnessed. She had been on the front lines of a historical moment without even realizing it. She had served coffee to one of the greatest legends in global sports while he was being rejected for the color of his skin. And Mr. Dunley, good heavens, Mr. Dunley had humiliated Michael Jordan. Her phone rings. It's Jackie, her coworker. Tasha, did you see? I did. It was him. The man from this morning was Michael Jordan. I know, Jackie. I know. We have to do something. Dunley has to pay for this. Tasha gazes out her kitchen window at the city lights. Tomorrow she would have to return to work. She would have to face Mr. Dunley. She would have to decide whether to remain silent or to fight for justice. But one thing she had already resolved. She wouldn't pretend that nothing had happened. The following morning arrived with the ominous weight of an impending storm. Tasha awoke before her alarm, her stomach churning with a potent mix of nervousness and determination. The videos of Jordan had already amassed millions of views overnight. The entire world was abuzz with what had transpired in Chicago. She donned her uniform with mechanical precision, each button fastened a preparation for war. In the bathroom mirror, she saw a woman different from the one who had awoken yesterday. The same brown eyes, but now they carried fire. The bus ride to work was surreal. Passengers peered at their phones, sharing and commenting on the videos. Tasha overheard fragments of conversations. I can't believe they did that to Jordan. It's a proof that it doesn't matter how rich or famous you are. Racism is racism. She disembarked from the bus 2 blocks before work, needing a few extra minutes to collect her thoughts. The restaurant appeared in the distance. The same faded sign, the same fogged windows. But today, everything felt different. Tasha pushed open the entrance door and was met by the usual morning hustle and bustle. Mr. Dunley stood behind the counter, meticulously checking the till with his obsessive thoroughness. The hostess thumbed through a gossip magazine. Other staff members prepared the tables for another day of service. Life went on as normal, as if yesterday had never happened. Tasha ties on her apron and heads to her section. Other servers greet her with casual nods. No one mentions the videos. No one speaks of Michael Jordan. It's as if the outside world doesn't exist within those walls. But Mr. Dunley knows. She sees it in his eyes as he watches her across the restaurant. There's nervousness there, a tension that wasn't present before. He knows she was present. He knows she witnessed everything. At 10:30 a.m., during a lull between customers, Tasha steels herself and approaches the counter, where Dunley is counting money. Mr. Dunley, we need to talk. He slowly raises his eyes, his face assuming that defensive expression she knows so well. About what, Tasha? About yesterday. About the man you turned away. Dunley forces a nervous laugh. Oh, that. Just upholding our standards. You understand? Our standards? Tasha's voice rises slightly. You turned a man away because of the color of his skin, not because of who he is, not because of how he behaved, because of the color of his skin. Be careful with your accusations, Tasha, Dunley warns, his voice adopting that menacing tone. You need this job, don't you? It's a veiled yet clear threat. Stay quiet or lose your livelihood. The same old game. The same system that keeps people like her silent. But not today. I saw the videos, she says, each word laden with determination. The entire world saw the videos. That man was Michael Jordan. Color drains from Dunley's face as if a plug had been pulled. That's impossible, he stammers. Michael Jordan, 6-time NBA champion, billionaire, living legend, and you treated him like trash because he's black. At that moment, the doorbell chimes. Tasha and Dunley turn to see an elegant woman entering the restaurant. An impeccable pantsuit, perfectly coiffed hair, professional camera equipment in hand. Candace Reed from NBC Chicago walks towards them with firm, determined steps. Mr. Dunley, I'm Candace Reed from NBC. I'd like to speak with you about yesterday's events. Mr. Dunley freezes like a cornered animal. His eyes dart between Tasha and Candace Reed, rapidly processing that his life is about to change drastically. The reporter carries a natural authority that fills the space, her professional presence contrasting with the restaurant's unpretentious setting. "I have nothing to say," Dunley mutters, attempting to back away. "Of course there is," Candace retorts, powering on her camera. "You rejected Michael Jordan yesterday at this establishment. We have a multitude of witnesses, including staff." Other patrons in the restaurant begin to notice the commotion. Whispers ripple across the tables. Phones are discreetly raised to record the confrontation. Tasha feels her heart lurch. This is the moment, the critical juncture where she can choose between the safety of silence and the courage of truth. "I was here," she says, her voice gaining strength. "I saw everything." Candace turns to her, immediately recognizing the significance of the witness. "And what exactly did you witness, ma'am?" "I saw a man judged by the color of his skin before he even uttered a word," Tasha replies, each word a piercing truth. "I saw my boss humiliate a patron who merely sought a cup of coffee. I saw unadulterated racism masquerading as clientele standards." "That's a lie," Dunley explodes, his face flushed with rage and desperation. "She's distorting the facts. I have black employees. I'm not a racist." "Having black employees doesn't preclude anyone from being racist," Candace observes calmly, "especially when those employees are reprimanded for treating black customers with basic dignity." The camera continues rolling, capturing every second of Dunley's public unraveling. He knows he's being filmed, knows his words will be broadcast to thousands, but panic clouds his judgment. "You don't understand," he attempts to explain, sweat trickling down his forehead. "This is a middle-class neighborhood. We have a reputation. Our patrons expect a certain ambiance." "An ambiance without black people?" Tasha questions, her patience finally wearing thin. "Is that what you call an appropriate ambiance?" That's not what I meant," Dunley stammers, realizing that each word only buries him deeper. Candace closes in on him with the camera. "Mr. Dunley, do you have anything to say to Michael Jordan? To the black community? To the people who witnessed your conduct yesterday?" Dunley gazes directly into the camera. For a moment, there is absolute silence in the restaurant. Even the patrons cease feigning disinterest. He begins, but the words die in his throat. "It wasn't a mistake," Candace continues, her voice professional but laden with controlled emotion. "It was a reflection of our society, a reflection of how black men are treated in this country, regardless of their fame, wealth, or accomplishments." The truth hangs heavy in the air like dense smoke. Everyone in the restaurant feels its weight. Candace turns off the camera and faces Tasha. "Would you like to give an interview? Tell your side of the story?" Tasha looks at Mr. Dunley, who now appears to be a defeated man. She looks at the other employees, some supportive, others clearly uncomfortable. She looks at the customers, many of whom likely share their boss's prejudiced attitudes. "Yes," she responds firmly. "I would very much like to." "Great. I'd also like to speak with Michael Jordan. Can you help me get in touch with him?" At that moment, Candace's phone rings. She answers quickly. "Candace Reed. Yes, I'm aware. What do you mean he accepted? When? Live?" She hangs up and looks at Tasha with wide eyes. "Michael Jordan has agreed to an interview. Live. Tonight. The world is about to hear directly from Jordan himself about what happened. And for the first time in history, one of the greatest legends in American sports will speak openly about racism." The NBC Chicago studio had never been so tense. Technicians check equipment with military precision, knowing this will be one of the most important interviews of the decade. Candace Reed reviews her notes for the 10th time, each question meticulously crafted to extract truths the world needs to hear. At 7:45 p.m., Michael Jordan enters the studio. No mask, no disguise, just himself. Tall, imposing, carrying that presence that made entire arenas fall silent upon his mere arrival. But today there is something different in his eyes, a vulnerability he has rarely shown publicly. "Mr. Jordan, thank you for agreeing to do this," Candace says, shaking his hand. "Thank you for giving voice to the truth," he replies simply. They take their positions in the studio chairs. The lights come up. Cameras roll. And for the first time in history, Michael Jordan is about to speak about racism not as an abstract theory, but as a lived personal experience. Good evening. I'm Candace Reed, and this is a special edition of NBC Chicago Tonight. I'm here with Michael Jordan, who yesterday experienced something no person should ever have to, but which millions of Black Americans face daily. Jordan settled into the chair, his large hands clasped, gaze fixed on the camera. Mr. Jordan, tell me about your decision to go out without security, without the usual entourage that typically accompanies you. For a long time, I've wanted to understand what it's like to be treated simply as Michael, not as Michael Jordan the brand, he replied, his voice calm yet laden with emotion. I wanted to remember what it's like to walk through the world as just a Black American man. And what did you discover? Jordan paused. He looked down for a moment, gathering his thoughts. I discovered that nothing has changed, that beneath all the adoration, all the accolades, all the greatest of all time labels, there still exists the same fear, the same prejudice, the same dehumanization I faced when I was just a poor kid from Brooklyn. His words resonated through the studio like sacred confessions. Tell me about the restaurant. I was ignored, treated as if my presence were a contamination, as if the mere fact of my existence in that space was an affront to the real patrons. Jordan continued, every word measured yet potent. And when a Black employee tried to treat me with basic human dignity, she was publicly humiliated for it. Tasha Bell, a courageous woman who risked her livelihood to do what was right. She represents the best of humanity. And at the electronics store, Jordan took a deep breath. I was accused of shoplifting just for being in a store. My crime was existing as a Black man. When they found my watch, a watch I've worn for 30 years, they automatically assumed I had stolen it. How did that make you feel? Anger, sadness, but primarily clarity, Jordan admitted. Clarity that being Black hasn't ceased to be perilous, not even when you're famous, not when you have money, not when you've inspired millions of people. In the end, for many, you're still just another threat to be neutralized. Candace leaned forward. Some might say you're exaggerating, that these were just isolated misunderstandings. Jordan looked directly into the camera, his eyes piercing through the screen to every person watching. Misunderstandings don't follow patterns. Racism does. When you are systematically treated as a suspect for being in public spaces, that's not coincidence. It's societal design. Jordan's words cut through the air with surgical precision. In American homes, millions pause their routines to listen as one of the greatest sports legends addresses truths many would prefer to ignore. What do you hope emerges from this experience? I hope people understand that racism isn't merely about offensive words or explicit violence. It's about the daily dehumanization of entire populations. It's about being judged by stereotypes before even uttering a word. It's about living in a society that idolizes you on a basketball court, but treats you like a criminal in an electronics store. The interview continues for another 20 minutes, each question peeling back deeper layers of the Black American experience. When it concludes, the silence in the studio is absolute. Candace knows she has just witnessed history in the making. The interview goes viral before it even finishes. Clips circulate across social media in real time. Darshana de Jordan Speaks Truth becomes a global trending topic within minutes. Millions of people share their own experiences with racism in the comments. The following morning, the repercussions begin to unfold like falling dominoes. Mr. Dunley's restaurant awakens to a throng of protesters at its doors. Placards demand its closure. Customers cancel reservations. Employees resign. The city council announces an investigation into discriminatory practices. By 11 a.m., an official statement is issued. The establishment will be temporarily closed for internal policy review and cultural sensitivity training. Mr. Dunley, at home, watches the news with his head in his hands. His wife packs belongings, preparing to leave Chicago. Neighbors avert eye contact. His life, built upon privilege and prejudice, crumbles in less than 24 hours. At the electronics store, the situation is different. The owner, a second-generation Korean immigrant, immediately dismisses the security guard and issues a public apology. He announces that he will implement mandatory anti-discrimination training for all employees. Lamar Carter wakes up famous. His video defending Jordan transforms him into a symbol of interracial solidarity. Universities offer scholarships. Companies want to hire him as a diversity consultant. But the most profound change occurs for Tasha Bell. Her phone won't stop ringing. Job offers pour in from upscale restaurants. TV producers want to interview her. Publishing houses are offering her book deals. For the first time in her life, Tasha has options. At 2 p.m., her phone rings again. But this time, the voice on the other end leaves her speechless. "Tasha, this is Michael Jordan." She nearly drops the phone. "Mr. Jordan, I'd like to speak with you in person. Could you meet me at the South Side Community Center today at 4 p.m.? "Of course. But may I ask why?" "Because courageous people like you deserve to be celebrated, and because I have a proposition to make." The South Side Community Center is more bustling than usual. Children rush through the corridors, their voices echoing off the walls, adorned with murals of civil rights leaders. Martin Luther King Jr. smiles from one wall. Malcolm X observes from another. And today, Michael Jordan walks among them. Tasha arrives first, nervous but resolute. She's wearing her best dress. She doesn't own many, but this one is special. Lamar appears 5 minutes later, clearly still processing the fact that he was about to meet his idol in person. Jordan awaits them in the main hall, but he's not alone. Beside him, there's a table laden with documents, a lawyer in an understated suit, and what appears to be an exceptionally large check. "Tasha, Lamar." Jordan rises, greeting them with genuine embraces. "Thank you for coming." "Mr. Jordan," Tasha says, still somewhat incredulous. "Thank you for everything you said yesterday. Thank you for having the courage to speak the truth when it mattered," he replies. "You too have inspired me more than you can imagine." Lamar remains quiet, clearly too overcome with emotion to speak. Jordan leads them to the table. "I want to do something that transforms this horrific experience into something positive and lasting," he begins. "Tasha, you lost your job for doing what was right. Lamar, you defended a stranger when no one else would have." He gestures toward the documents on the table. "I'm establishing a foundation, the Dignity Foundation, focused on combating discrimination and fostering opportunities for Black youth. I want you both to be its inaugural directors." Tasha feels her legs buckle. Lamar finally finds his voice. You want me to work for you?" "No," Jordan corrects. "I want you to work with the community. The foundation will be yours to run. I will merely provide the resources." He picks up the large check from the table. $15 million to start. More will follow as needed. The number is unfathomable. Tasha had never seen so much money all at once. Not even in movies. "Mr. Jordan," she whispers. "Michael," he gently corrects. "And this isn't charity. It's an investment. An investment in people who have proven their character when tested." Jordan turns to look out the window, where children are playing in the community center courtyard. "Do you know what pained me most throughout this entire ordeal?" he asks. "It wasn't being treated like a thief. It wasn't the public humiliation. It was realizing that those children out there will grow up facing the same things I faced, the same things you faced." He turns back to them. "But perhaps they needn't. Perhaps we can build something better. Perhaps we can teach an entire generation that dignity isn't a privilege. It's a basic human right." Just then, a small child rushes into the room. A Black boy, perhaps 6 years old, with curious eyes and an infectious smile. "Auntie Tasha," he shouts, running to embrace her. "Hi, Marcus," she smiles, hugging him back. The boy notices Jordan and stops, clearly recognizing him. "You're Michael Jordan," he exclaims. "I am," Jordan replies, crouching down to the child's level. "And you are. Marcus, I play basketball just like you." "That's great. But do you know what's even more important than playing basketball?" Marcus shakes his head. "Treating all people with respect. Being courageous when you see something wrong. Standing up for those who need help." Jordan looks into the child's eyes. "That's what makes a true champion." Marcus smiles and runs back outside, probably to tell his friends he talked to Michael Jordan. Jordan stands up and looks at Tasha and Lamar. He's why we do this, so that he grows up in a world where being black doesn't automatically mean being suspect. Tasha wipes a tear from her face. So, do we accept? Jordan smiles, the first genuine smile he'd had in days. I hope so, because I want this next generation to know that dignity is the greatest legacy we can leave. The three stand in silence for a moment, absorbing the weight of the moment. Outside, the children continue to play, oblivious to the fact that their lives have just been irrevocably transformed. Tasha takes up a pen and affixes her signature to the initial documents. Lamar follows suit. Michael Jordan, the luminary who captivated the globe with his athletic prowess, now embarks on a new odyssey, a struggle vastly more pivotal than any championship. For some victories transcend mere sport. Some victories reshape the very fabric of the world. And as Marcus races across the schoolyard, his laughter echoing amongst his friends, he remains unaware that he is bearing witness to the genesis of something truly revolutionary. He is oblivious to the fact that the man he just encountered is not merely a legendary basketball icon. He is someone who has resolved to leverage his formidable platform to ensure a brighter future for children just like himself. The sun dips below the Chicago skyline, suffusing the heavens with vibrant hues of orange and gold. Yet for Tasha, Lamar, and the countless children destined to be transformed by the Dignity Foundation, the day is merely dawning. For when legends commit to championing justice, miracles invariably unfold. And this indeed is merely the genesis. If this narrative has resonated deeply with you, consider subscribing to our channel for further impactful stories. For truth invariably merits articulation, and dignity without exception merits unwavering advocacy.